Okay, after looking up some tutorials on YouTube about how to animate in Gmax, I've sort of been able to grasp the concept of animation, but I've been having some trouble with a lighthouse light that I'm trying to animate at night. First, I'm going to show you another lighthouse that I'm using as a template to give you an idea of how the system works that I basically planned up. So basically, this guy's lighthouse, he has a mesh for the daytime, as all meshes need. So yeah, that's what the lighthouse looks like during the day. And he has another mesh. Let me show you. He has another mesh for the night, obviously. That's basically all the parts that light up at night. And then he has an anim.kin. I think it's called night.kin. But I can't open that one because I don't think I have a program that opens those files. The only way to open those files is to view it in Content Creator Plus on Trainz 12. But I will show you in a little bit what that looks like. Just give me a second to open Trainz 12. It takes a long time on this computer. Okay, real quick, I'm going to show you how this lighthouse is animated at night by opening it in Content Creator Plus. The only way I know of to open .kin files, which are the animation files for this game. Okay, give it a second to load up. Okay, let's go to the meshes. Of course, you have the daytime mesh. And then there's a nighttime mesh as well. Now, that cylinder that you see going up and down, that's the actual light. Whenever it flashes on, it goes up into the lantern room, and when it goes off, it goes down to the base of the lighthouse. And it's small enough to fit in the lighthouse, and it's slightly wider than the lens. So it actually looks like it's on when it's on, and when it's off, it looks like it's off. And this animation happens so quickly that you don't really notice it going up and down. So this is pretty much an ingenious way to animate a lighthouse at night. Seeing this gave me hope that the animation that I wanted for my replica of the Bodie Island Lighthouse was possible. Anyway, let's just revert that so I can show you the problem that I'm having with Gmax when animating it. Okay, this is the animation I have for the Bodie Island Lighthouse. And let me try to play it real quick. Here's a cylinder I have for the lens when it's off. And then at the bottom, of course, I have the white cylinder to indicate the beam of light. Alright, now let's just play the animation. This animation sequence lasts almost as long as the real one. It flashes on for 2.5 seconds, then off for 2.5 seconds, then on for 2.5 seconds, then off for 22.5 seconds. Well, close to that. It's actually slightly shorter than 22.5 seconds in this animation. But what are you gonna do? Anyway, look what happens when I try to export it. Here we go again. Error. No bone to export. Still not sure what that means. Let me try something else. Nope, the same error again. I'm not sure what to do at this point. Maybe there are too many frames. 903 frames is quite a lot. maybe I can shorten it a little bit by making it so that it's just 2 frames per second. Alright, I lowered the amount of frames there are in a second. Let's check the animation just to make sure it's still believable. Yeah, it's still close enough. Even with just 2 frames per second, it's still doable. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's try to export it. It has less frames now, so maybe it'll work. Okay, I'm gonna call it night.kin, like most people do. Nope, still the same error. It's just impossible. No matter what, I cannot seem to export this thing. Okay, let's see what happens if I try to export it as a .im file, but just call it a .kin file. It's probably not going to work. I remember on older computers, if you change the file extension, it changes the file automatically, but newer computers don't really do that anymore. So yeah, it's still a .im file, despite the fact that I named it .kin, and it doesn't animate either. Might not be able to animate it using Gmax. It's a real shame. I just today learned how to animate, and I can't even use this talent. Okay, let's copy all these files over to the night folder of the mesh that I created for the Bodie Island Lighthouse. Yeah, I still use Trainz 12 to create objects because it's Content Creator Plus is a lot easier to use, since it automatically writes the config file for you. Okay, I have all the files in the night folder. It's probably still not going to animate it because it's technically not a real .kin file. But, you know, you never know until you try. First, let the game know that it has to be an object that lights up at night. I'm going to select light, and I'm also going to select night mode. And I'm going to select lamp. That's usually the one you want to use for a lighthouse. Unless for whatever reason it turns off at midnight. So anyway, here's the lighthouse. It looks a little bit orangey in this game. It looks better in Trainz 2019 because that's the game I actually made the textures for. The keeper's house looks really nice, though the textures are kind of low poly. It did turn out more or less the way I expected it to when making it in Gmax. Except for that doggone night animation. Okay, so when I usually make something that lights up at night, I call that file night because it makes things easier. So yeah, it's the mesh of the animation, but not the animation itself. There doesn't appear to be anything I can do about that. At least not using Gmax. Let's see what happens if I try to open it as a .kin file. It's probably not going to let me do it. Yeah, it turns out you can't open it as a .kin file. It still recognizes it as an IM file. even if it's name.kin. Such is the nature of these newer computers. Alright, I saved it anyway, just so I have the mesh saved somewhere. If in the future I ever find out how to make this work. Everything's saved and submitted and whatnot. Well, I might have to just use the Lighthouse Black that's on the download station as a substitute. It looks almost like the Bodie Island Lighthouse. It's just a little bit shorter and it doesn't flash on and off. And I guess I can just make the oil house mesh and call it a day. Because quite frankly, I'm getting tired of this thing not working the way I expect it to.